Everyone, we're just going to give it another minute for the rest of the attendees to join. Then we'll start the webinar shortly. Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar, um, linking web workbooks records using custom fields, creating dynamic linked items. So my name is Heather, and I'm part of the support team here at Workbooks. Today's session is part of our 2026 webinar series, and we'll be focusing on dynamic linked items, often referred as DLIs. Oops, sorry. And the next one is due to take place on 11th of February, and it will be on designing and creating, designing form layouts. Over the course of today's webinar, I'll be walking you through what dynamic linked items are, some key points. We'll also look at some examples on how they can help with real world scenarios. And then finally, we will also be setting up our own dynamic linked item in the product, which will be on, we'll be using the example of a product picker, which is what we'll be setting up in Workbooks. So what are dynamic linked items? They are essentially dynamic linked items are a type of custom field which are driven by reports in the background, and the dynamic linked items allow you to create links between different record types. So for example, you wanted to, the primary contact field on an organization is a type of a dynamic DLI field, which links to the person record. And with DLIs, they allow you to open the relevant records like so. And this is with DLIs, you usually see these icons where you can create the target record from the field itself, or open the target record from the field. We can use DLIs in reporting to extract data from the target record. For example, if we start a report on organization, and if we use the DLI field, we can extract information from the target record that the DLI field is pointing to. And this is an example of how DLI fields how a DLI field looks like when you're reporting. So they will have that that triangle shape towards the end of it, which allows you to drill through to this to that target record. In this case, we are on opportunities, and our DLI field is pointing to products, so we can drill through to products record type and report on the fields on the product. With DLIs, we can constrain the results that are shown by reporting on the data we want to see, and then within the field config, constraining what comes up based on the source record that is open. We can also use DLIs to auto-populate fields on the record that's open. So it means that the users have to populate less number of fields. And we can also use DLIs to we can also display DLIs as a tab. Now moving on to some of the examples of dynamic linked item. The first one we'll see is how we can use DLIs on opportunity record to capture the reseller who's responsible for the opportunity. The second one is we'll be using DLIs on invoices to auto-populate the discount field based on the referral code entered. And finally, as mentioned earlier, we will be setting up the product picker in Workbooks, which is a great example of how DLI can help solve real-world scenarios and make tasks in Workbook much easier. So using DLI on opportunity record to capture the reseller. The scenario is um, your business works with a few reseller, which is why you want to track opportunities coming in from each reseller and create a relationship between the reseller and opportunity. So let's start. Um, as mentioned earlier, all DLIs need a report. As DLIs are driven by the report. Um, sorry, just a second. Right. Now that we have a report, we need to create the DLI custom field, and you need to select which report it looks at, what view it looks at, and the display column. And then as in advanced options, we can then set what the relationship should be between the records. So DLI does allow us to create relationships between the source and target record, which can be reported on. And then based on, as you can see, we can, the reseller field, which is a DLI, is showing the drop down, is showing us the values from our report based on the display column we have selected. And once you select the value, click save, it creates the relationship, which is great, as this means that DLI allow us to move beyond simple data capture and instead create meaningful, reportable relationships between records. Moving on to our next example, which focuses on using a dynamic linked item on invoices to automatically populate the correct discount value. So the scenario is the finance team needs a reliable way to ensure the correct discount percentage is applied whenever a referral code is entered on an invoice. Without automation, the process relies on manual checks or user knowledge, which can lead to inconsistencies or errors. Again, we start with a report, and in our report, we can see, as you can see, we have the name of the companies or our resellers and their referral code and the discount that is associated with each referral code. Again, we set up the DLI similar to what we did previously, but now we scroll down further below and then create the auto-populate field mapping. So we select the report column, which is referral code discount to be applied, and then the form field, the value where the values from this row or cell will be populated onto. Then we expose our DLIs in the form layout. And so as we can see, when we selected the referral code, which is our DLI, the referral code discount to be applied field is being populated based on the value from our report. Oh, sorry. Just, yep. So as we can see, if it's arrow hyphen 1950, it's 15%. And based on the value we selected, it has successfully populated the correct discount code, which is great, as this means, again, there will be less inconsistencies and less room for error. And much like the previous one, the previous examples we have seen so far, we'll be configuring a similar DLI. We'll be configuring a DLI within Workbooks. And the reason why we have chosen the product picker is because it's a great example of how a DLI can be used effectively, and it ties in most of the key concepts about DLIs. As observed from our previous examples, we will need a report, to drive that DLI, relevant fields on the record type, which will be the select category and select product, but really the select product is the only DLI, but select category is a dynamic pick list. But what we will be doing is that we'll be using the select category to constrain the results that show up on the select product field, which we'll see in a minute. Again, as I mentioned, we'll need to expose these fields on the form layout. So, let's just quickly jump into the product now. Great. So this is a example opportunity that I have got on my screen. Let me just zoom in a little bit. There we go. So this is an example opportunity I have where we will set up the product picker. So the purpose of the product picker is that we want to select, we want to restrict the products that are available to be selected on the line item when the category is selected, because as you might imagine, you can have thousands of products, but it can be quite challenging to find the right product. So the idea over here is we use a dynamic pick list, which again looks at a report, and that drives. So using the purpose of the dynamic pick list, which is going to be the select category, we will limit. We'll select, like the name suggests, we select the category. Is it category A or B? And then based on the selection over there, let's say we selected category A, the drop-down list in select in the subsequent field, which will be select product, the DLI field, only results relevant to category A will show up, which means that products that have the category A, only they will show up on the select product pick list, DLI field. So let's get started. Let me just move this out of the way. So as mentioned earlier, we will need a report to drive our DLI. And as you can see, I've got about 20 rows over here, 20 products. And in the summary view, we've got 2 categories over here, one's support and one's training and consultancy. So for the select category field, which is a dynamic pick list, let's quickly, sorry, yep. So once we are in config, record types, open the relevant record type that you want to set up the dynamic DLI on. So for the purposes of setting up the product picker, I want to set it up on the line item field section of an opportunity. We'll navigate as so. Click a new custom field. Let's quickly set up the select category field. And let's find the report that we want to use, DLI products. And we have to set we can set which view we want to use. And this will define what rows will appear. And we use the display column. So you can have multiple display columns in a report, but in our, in a view, but for the view we have selected, we've only got the one. So we'll just go with that. And there is nothing else that needs to be done here. So I'll quickly click save and close for now. Actually, we'll just click save. And we'll create the second field, which is the actual DLI. Right, great. So that's been created. I'll just close that. Let's name it as select product. Product. And again, let's select the report that we'll be using. Choose DLI products, but this time we want to use the details tab because that's where we have the list of our products. And I'll go with I want to use the description to be the description column so that we can see the value of each rows from the description column on the drop-down list. And we want to constrain this based on the category selected in the based on the value selected in the select category field. And the report column is category. Just going back to our report really quickly. So basically, when a value is selected in the select category field, we only want relevant products with the relevant category to show up. So which means if I selected support, I wouldn't see any product which has product category of training and consultancy. Great. Once that is done, let's click update. And then because once we select the product, we want it to automatically populate all the other relevant fields on a line item field. And so for that, we'll just use the product ID from the report and fill in the product. Got update. And finally, let's click save and close. So as I mentioned, we can also display DLIs as a tab, but given the fact that we are on the line item field, line item section, we can't really display this as a tab. But if we were to do it on, let me just quickly open up another custom field on the document body, on the document header. So if I was to go click dynamic linked items now, so just a second. So I think we might have to save the record first. Apologies, one moment. But yeah, sorry, apologies for that. So yes, you can, we can display DLIs or again as a tab on the target record, and which is the product. What you would just need to do is go onto a product record and then click on, you have to display the tab and the form layout. Once that is done, just double check everything is correct. Let's click save and close. All right, let's go to form layouts. Now we need to expose these fields in our form layout in the line item section. Right, and now let's go to order line items, right? And we want to go for, we want to find the select, there we go, select category. We want yes, position first. There we go, save and close. Sorry, one moment. There we go, select product line items. Let's enable this field as well and position this after category. Click save and close. Save and close on the form layout. And then click save here as well. All right. Now let's click save here so it loads with the changes. Great. Now we have a field here. Now we can see our custom fields here. The select category and select product field. Just expand those a bit. Let's add a new line item. So let's say we want to, the product we want to look for has to have the category of support, right? And now let's select the product. Now you'll see we only see products that have a category of support. Just to confirm, we'll quickly refer back to the report. I'll filter on this. Filter starts with support, and you'll see these are all the products with the category support. And now let's just select one. Let's say 12 months. Sorry. There we go. And you will see, because of the auto-populate mapping we configured, where we're resetting the product ID, which is essentially what we do when we add when we select a product in the line items. It has automatically pulled across all of the values from the product record and populated them on the line item field section. Click update and save. So this is a great example of how we can use DLIs to make navigating workbooks much easier when trying to reduce the options that come up on a dropdown, and show more relevant options based on the category, or like a different based on a previous field of value that has been set. Moving on from there. Right. So let's recap what we have touched on about DLIs. DLIs are a great way to create meaningful and smarter connections between different record types. Be it the way we can set DLIs to create relationships between different record types, or constrain results so only relevant relevant options show up on the dropdown, and how it can easy it is to set up DLIs to auto-populate fields. So, excuse me, just a moment. Sorry. Sorry, excuse me. Apologies for that. We also looked at examples of utilizing DLI's functionality on creating relationships between records and auto-populating fields. We also built the product picker in Workbooks. Just move on to the next slide. Sorry, yes. Now we're opening up for questions. Does anybody have any questions? So we have a question from Tina, who's asking what is the difference between dynamic pick list and dynamic linked items? So essentially, you can't report, you don't have a direct link button for dynamic pick list, so you couldn't drill through to the target record type from a dynamic pick list. Or yeah, and then you can drill through using a dynamic pick list in report, like as you would be able to do so via a dynamic DLI. Any other questions, guys? So we have another question from Michael, who has asked if users do not have access to the report, will they still be able to see the DLI field on the records? So while they will still be able to see DLI fields on the records, they wouldn't be able to they wouldn't be able to access the drop down list, because the values in the drop down list, because they are driven by report. So it's always best to set the report to run as a system admin if you're going to be using it as a DLI. This means that all users who are going to be using that field have access to the values that are meant to be shown up, that are meant to be shown. we'll move on to the next bit. So the next drop-in webinar is, which I mentioned, is on design on form layouts, and it's meant to take place on 11th of February 2026 at 4 p.m. Please do visit our knowledge base, as a lot of this information is available there, and and it provides a lot of background information on the subject. Uh, Please do feel free to contact us via our email address, or contact our account manager. Um, and Going forward, please remember to use our case portal. All of these sessions are recorded, and the video is available on our website. Um, there we go. Thank you for attending, and see you next time. Thank you. Bye.